Hi students, I'm sure a lot of you are scared of taking test, and whenever you hear the word test, you of course don't like it. It generates a lot of feelings that are not comfortable. So in today's video, we're going to address a question, and the question is how many SimCAT should I take and when should I take these tests? Should I take the test after I've completed my syllabus? And if I'm scared of taking test, then what we should be doing? So there are a lot of these questions that students have. And a lot of students also, because they are scared of taking test, they keep pushing their SimCATs. So they think that I'll be able to take the SimCATs in October, November and December. In fact, you should be starting your SimCATs as early as possible. So even when you're not completely prepared, you should be taking the SimCATs. And in today's video, I'm going to make a very strong case for that through some data. So I'm not going to just give you gyan, but I'm going to share some insights from real students that we had from CAT 23 and CAT 24, and it will hopefully convince you that it is very, very crucial that you take SimCATs from day one. So let's first understand what are the reasons as to why students don't take tests. So you should be taking pretty much all the SimCATs. So there are 20 proctored SimCATs that we offer as part of the IMS test series, and of course classroom students, online students, live the SLP students also have access to these. But in that test series, we have 20 proctored tests, we have 20 take-home tests as well. Now, a lot of students, when you ask them, why are you not taking tests, they come up with different reasons. And I'm going to summarize these reasons first, and then we'll get into those insights that I spoke about. The first thing is students think that they need to complete the entire syllabus. So whenever you ask students, hey, why are you not taking SimCATs? They will say that, sir, ma'am, I have not completed my syllabus at this point of time. I'm on module 0, module 1, module 2, module 3, etc. And because I have not completed my syllabus, I am not taking SimCATs. But it is a very wrong approach regarding SimCATs. See, SimCATs, you have to use it as an exercise to check whatever you have studied at this point of time. If there are any questions that appear from those areas, are you able to solve these questions? So I should not be waiting for my syllabus to get over, but I should say that, okay, I've completed 2 modules. Whatever questions appear from these 2 modules, am I in a position to solve these questions correctly? And that is how I'm going to assess myself. I'm not going to be very harsh on myself and say that, oh, out of all the questions, I was able to attempt only 10% of the questions. But maybe from the topics that you are able to solve all the questions. So that is why don't wait for your syllabus to get over. That day may take some time, and because of that, don't keep pushing your SimCATs. So take SimCATs, it's okay whether you completed module 1 or module 2 or module 3, whatever be the case. The second reason, which is the most common reason, is the fear of low scores. Now, since childhood, a lot of students, of course, they don't like taking tests, and whenever they get low scores on the test, they think that it is sort of equivalent to having some sort of a failure. Now, if you are somebody like that, let me tell you, everybody who goes through the CAT journey, they do not have a linearly progressing SimCAT journey. So as you look at SimCAT journeys of all the students who have gone to top tier colleges, you will see that their scores tend to fluctuate, their percentile tends to fluctuate. So you should not be worried about low scores. Now what will happen? What is the worst case that can happen if you get a low score, right? How many people actually ask you about your SimCAT scores? So we think that, oh, I get a low score, my friends will laugh at me, my parents will think something and so on. But how many people are actually concerned about what is your SimCAT score? Not too many. So it's okay, completely fine to get a low score. And even if you get a low score, just analyze why you're getting a low score and then work for the next SimCAT. So you need to plan what I'm going to do before I take the next SimCAT. The third thing is losing momentum or motivation. Sometimes what happens is students take a long break. So between, let's say, SimCAT 7, you took SimCAT 7, now you're not taken SimCAT 8. And then you're thinking, oh, should I be taking SimCAT 9 or should I just skip it? Maybe I'll do it later, I'll take SimCAT 10. Or I'll do SimCAT 8 first and then I will take SimCAT 9 after the proctored window is over and so on. So you keep convincing yourself, and in that process you tend to even lose the momentum. Sometimes it is also a matter of motivation, that because you're not getting good scores, you're not motivated to take the test. But that is the real situation where you have to be strong and say that it doesn't matter how much am I scoring. What matters is I just show up, right? So Woody Allen said 80% of success is showing up. And that is one of my favorite quotes, because that is the crucial part, that you have to show up and take the test during the proctored window as much as possible. Now, a lot of students delay taking tests because they think that there will be that nice day when they feel confident about their preparation, that hey, I know a lot of things, I will be able to do well. Now that confidence, it will take some while before you actually get there. So a lot of us, we will not be 100% confident. We have to be reasonably confident though by the time we hit CAT day. But during the SimCATs, it's not necessary that you should be 100% confident. Even if you have done, as I said, 1 or 2 modules, if you have done them properly, you should be like, okay, let me take the test. Whatever comes from these areas, I'm going to handle them, tackle them, and in whatever way, if I can get the questions correct, get a decent score, that's enough. You walk into, let's say, a DLR section, walk out with one correct set, you should be happy about it. There's absolutely no reason why that should make you underconfident. And lastly, a lot of students underestimate the impact of SimCATs. So they think that I'm studying, right? So I'm going through my courseware, I'm watching master classes, I'm going through practice questions, the class exercises, practice exercises, benchmarking tests. I'm doing all of that. But if you're not taking the SimCATs, you are not putting yourself in a situation where you can experience real test taking. See, when you're solving class exercises, let's say you open percentages and you're solving questions of percentages back to back, you will see that you are able to solve a lot of questions because you're in the flow. And a lot of times they are on the same concept, related concepts, and the gradual increase in difficulty is what you get used to. But when you take a full length test, what happens is you start with question 1, suddenly it's very difficult. Question 2 is from a different topic and it is of moderate level. Question 3 is from some topic that you have never done. So how do you get used to this sort of reactions? That, okay, if I see a difficult question, how do I react? What do I do? Do I panic? Do I do something else, right? So what is it exactly that I do? You will be able to experience all of this only when you take a full length test. So there are 3 things that I've written: test taking strategy, stamina, and speed. These are the 3 things that you will develop when you take the SimCATs. So that is why don't keep pushing your SimCATs for, let's say, October, November. You have to start taking them as soon as possible, no matter what is your level of prep. Also, there is a schedule that we have published for the proctored SimCATs. You just have to show up and take the test during that window. That is the most crucial aspect of it. If you do it during the window, of course you can take it outside the window as well, but we would strongly recommend that you take it during the window in terms of getting your rank, etc. Okay, so it's very important. It also builds that discipline, which is very, very crucial. Now let me jump on to the insights, because I'm guessing a lot of you are waiting for that. So let's get into the core insights from CAT 23 and CAT 24. So I'm going to share a lot of things with you that in fact a lot of students have never seen. You'll be seeing this for the very first time. Because we are doing this video also for the very first time, we had to have the CAT 23 as well as CAT 24 data to produce something like this. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to show you some graphs and some tables, so be ready for interpreting some data. Now what you see is CAT 23 and CAT 24 distribution, and what you see is I have plotted 2 things. On the x-axis you see the average SimCAT percentile of the students, and these are IMS students. So let me start with that disclaimer first. This is not entire CAT database. This is of course IMS students who were taking SimCATs, proctored SimCATs, that is, how they performed in the proctored SimCATs and how did they perform on the actual CAT. So what you see on the x-axis is average SimCAT percentile of these students, whereas on the y-axis you see the actual CAT percentile that these students obtained. What I've done is I've drawn a line here which basically indicates the equal performance zone, right? So what you see, if you're lying on the line, it means that your actual CAT percentile was exactly same as your average SimCAT percentile, correct? Now, anybody who is above the line, what it is telling you is that these people scored better in the actual CAT compared to their average SimCAT percentile. And you see a lot of concentration there. And this is not happening only in CAT 23, you will also see this happening in CAT 24. So every year, and I consider myself privileged that we have so much data that we can work with. Every year we tend to look at these data points, the patterns, and how students are performing, etc. And even in CAT 24 you see there is a lot of concentration here, which means that your actual CAT percentile is going to be, in most cases, better than your average SimCAT percentile. And that is why in IMS, in my IMS, you also see something called as predicted CAT percentile. I'm sure all of you have seen it. Some of you will keep wondering that I have got only 80 percentile in my SimCAT, but why is it showing, say, 90 plus as a predicted CAT percentile? It happens because we have used all these data points to create a mechanism through which we can predict your CAT percentile. So it's a predicted CAT percentile that we give you basis exercise similar to this. So a lot of students and majority of the students will improve their actual CAT performance compared to their average SimCAT percentile. But yes, you also see people below the line. Now, there are multiple reasons as to why that can happen. For example, for whatever reasons, that was a bad day for the student underperformed, there was a pressure, you could not perform to your potential, a lot of things can happen which lead to, say, not performing to the optimum potential. Okay, so the underperformance, yes, there will be some cases like that, but the percentage of such cases is very, very minimal. I'll show you some additional data points. Majority of the students will be able to improve their percentile. So their actual CAT percentile is going to be more than the average SimCAT percentile. Okay, let me add a few more data points. So what we did was, we calculated the correlation between the average SimCAT percentile of the student and the actual CAT percentile. And what we observed is that you have a reasonably strong positive correlation. So the figures are around 0.7, and if you study correlation, anything above 0.7 is considered to be strong correlation. So there is a good correlation between the average SimCAT percentile and the actual CAT percentile that students get. The other thing that I looked at was what happens when it comes to the best SimCAT performance. So what I have done is actual CAT score or percentile higher than the best SimCAT percentile. So let's say I've taken whatever 10 SimCATs, let's say 95 was my highest in the SimCATs, and I ended up getting a 98 on the actual CAT. So I'll fall in this case where actual CAT is higher than the best SimCAT percentile. In 57% of the cases in CAT 23 and 60% cases in CAT 24, we found that their actual performance was even higher than their highest SimCAT percentile. But when I look at the average SimCAT percentile, the numbers are extremely on the higher side. So 95% and 98% in CAT 23 and 24, which is what the graph was showing us, right? That because that higher concentration that you saw, it means that for majority of the students, the actual CAT is going to be higher than the average SimCAT. Lastly, what about these extreme underperformers? That the lowest SimCAT percentile that I got, if I have scored in the CAT worse compared to that, what is that proportion? And that proportion is very minimal. So 0.8% in CAT 23, 0.7% in CAT 24. So there will be some extreme underperformers, and of course, there's no way to get back to them and figure out what exactly went wrong. But yes, that's what the data is showing you. Okay, so we are not saying that everybody will have a jump, but yes, majority of the students are going to have a jump. Now, correlation and causation are two separate things. So when I say the correlation is high, it does not mean that just because you take more SimCATs, you will end up scoring on the higher side. That is not the case. But let's get into it and understand whether can I make some inferences at least, because the causation can work in different directions, right? So because I'm taking more tests, I'm scoring higher percentile in actual CAT. That can be one cause. The other cause can be I'm super motivated to get a higher score on the actual CAT, and that is why I'm taking more tests. So causality can work in both ways. But then that is the reason why I looked at the number of SimCAT students take and what happens with respect to the actual CAT percentile. And there are some interesting findings there, and of course you can have some conclusions and inferences that you can draw from this data. So what you see here, okay, let me first tell you what is there in the table. In the first column you see the actual CAT percentile range. The second and the third column is showing you for the IMS students in CAT 23 and in CAT 24 what is the average number of SimCATs that they attempted. Now if I classify the students, again these are IMS students, above 99 percentile, you will see that they are taking more than 14 tests in each of the year, more than 14 SimCATs. As I go down in terms of the percentile that they eventually obtained, I will see that the number of SimCATs taken is going down. What it tells me is that there are marginal differences between that last two rows that you see, 70 to 80, less than 70, etc. But what you see here is this part is increasing, similarly this part is increasing. What it means is that people who are actually eventually scoring on the higher side, if I go back and trace and find how many SimCATs they were taking, that number is definitely higher compared to the number of people who are scoring on the lower side. So when you look at this, you see that this difference, if you see, it is roughly about 2 SimCATs. This difference is more, it's almost 5 SimCATs, which means that if I have to score well in the final test eventually, I should be taking more SimCATs. Okay, let's just do one more exercise, and this exercise, the outcome of that was very surprising, and even we were very happy to see that outcome, and let me talk about that. So then what we looked at is, what about the number of SimCATs taken by the students, and what was the average CAT percentile of students in that particular range. So what we are doing here is, we are putting all the students who have taken between 1 to 4 SimCATs. And we looked at, okay, how did they get on the actual CAT, and we took average of that. So you see 79 here, you see 78 here, okay, not too different, right? But as you keep checking this, and as you increase the number of SimCATs taken, so 1 to 4, 5 to 8, so 20 SimCATs, I created 5 buckets, 4 SimCATs in each range, 13 to 16, 17 to 20. So what is showing you this last two is that there's a considerable difference between these 2 rows and the first 3 rows. So there is that point beyond which definitely there is something that is going on. What exactly is happening, we don't know. There could be a lot of factors, right? So that's why I said causality is very difficult to establish. But we see that as you increase the number of SimCATs taken, the average percentile within that particular pool starts to go up, okay? And because it is average, it is considering students have also got a 100 percentile, students have also got, let's say, maybe 1 or 2 percentile, right? So it's the range is huge there. But you clearly see, and that is why the data of 2 years was required to make any sort of conclusions on this, that as you take more and more tests, you see that the percentile is going up. And then we did one more thing, which is basically regression. So you don't just want to look at this and say, oh nice, this is looking great. So we did the regression of it. So we took the number of tests that they have taken, the number of SimCATs, and the actual CAT percentile, did a regression of that. What it shows you is that for CAT 23 and CAT 24, both the years, there was, so if you look at the coefficients that we obtained, each additional SimCAT improved CAT percentile by 0.41 in the year CAT 23, so 0.41 percentile. Whereas for CAT 24, it was more than that, which is 0.65. So which means that every additional test that I take has an implication on how I will perform on the actual CAT day. So that is why don't take it lightly. So what I have been doing in this video is trying to tell you that if you take more and more SimCATs, there is a higher chance that you will end up doing well on the CAT. For some students, that may or may not happen, because we saw the data, there will be these underperformers, but that percentage is so minute that if you look at the overall data, you will see that it is insignificant. And I'm not going to focus on these cases, but I'm going to believe that when I take more and more tests, I am putting myself in a situation which is better than my current situation. The data is not going to lie. The data is showing you that in 2 years, and we have thousands of data points, taking more SimCATs has contributed to people scoring on the higher side when it comes to actual CAT. And I can't convince you more than that. So if you are not convinced even at the end of this video, it's very difficult to convince you. But if you are convinced, I hope you will take the next SimCAT. Now, if you have any questions regarding this data, regarding SimCATs, when to take it, why to take it, whatever queries you may have, feel free to get back to us through the comment section. I'll be very happy to respond to your queries. Thank you so much for watching. Hope this has helped you, and wish all of you all the best. See you soon.